Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has proposed to increase reservations for other backward classes in the state from 50% to 65%. Now, this announcement came hours after a detailed report of the caste survey data was tabled in the Bihar Assembly. Now, this data itself is extremely important. It also has some startling figures saying that nearly 34% of people in Bihar remain poor, earning less than 6,000 rupees a month. It also says that 50 lakh people of the state have to migrate to other places for a livelihood. Most importantly, it shows the importance of caste as a factor when it comes to progress. Earlier in the day, I spoke to political analyst Badri Narayan and senior journalist Aditi Phadnis on the significance of these findings and the political ramifications. This is what they had to say. Professor Badri Narayan, who's a political analyst and social scientist, and Aditi Phadnis, who's a senior journalist. Thank you very much for joining us. Aditi ma'am, I'd like to go to you first. According to this data that has been released today, more than 42% of families from scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are poor, as over 33% of families which come from backward and extremely backward classes. Also 25.09% of general category families are also similarly listed. Of those surveyed, less than 6% of the scheduled caste had finished their schooling, which is basically class 11 and 12. So clearly this is worrying data, but of course some better signs, at least in education and literacy. What does this mean for Nitish Kumar's legacy of governance and for his political future?
It's a glass half full and a glass half empty. If you recall, Nitish Kumar began his first term as Chief Minister with the promise that cycles to go to school. That was then extended to all sections of population of a certain age, all school-going children. He introduced many affirmative action schemes for the backward and especially the extreme backward classes. An Ayog was set up to address these issues and so on. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is you can tell whether these things have had an effect or not only over a period of time. So what you really need is time series data. You can't say that, if a particular tribe numbers only 4,000 and out of that 2,000 are below the poverty line, then that means 50% of the tribe is below the poverty line, which is neither here nor there. So I think we need to have much more granular data on what the exact status of caste is, and socioeconomic backwardness, economic backwardness is another issue. The other issue is upper castes are also, there are poor among the upper castes also. This is a well-known fact, and I mean, you don't need a caste survey to prove this. So I guess all this will be processed by the government, but immediately to plunge into analysis about whether, the Nitish Kumar government has done something or has failed on all fronts, I think that would be premature.
Right. It's a very interesting point, ma'am. Professor Badri Narayan,
we just need to have a sense of balance.
Absolutely, I get that. So, Professor Badri Narayan, so like ma'am was also saying, of course, the report does paint a grim picture, but it's like a glass that's half full and half empty. But this is Bihar, where those who come from marginalized communities and backward classes constitute over 80% of the population. So one could say that at least the data is here for everyone to see and plan on an intervention. How do you see this data, sir?
Vasudha, I think first thing this data says, data speaks, what it speaks. First thing it speaks that only vertical, this reservation-based politics, which gives you the vertical mobility of a microscopic minority is okay, but we need to make it the horizontal, to make it horizontal and make intervention to distribute these state affirmative action-led resources towards margins of the margins at the horizontal level. Horizontally, we need to distribute it, and for that they need to plan a socio-economic intervention to reach to the last point of the society like this. And it's very interesting to see this data. What Narendra Modi used to say, that Garib is itself a category, which earlier Marxists used to tell. And now, so beyond the caste, beyond the community, this Garib is there. So how to address this Garib? Second thing is, you can see that there are this data, as Aditi suggested, it should be a more comprehensive data. It's not only one-time data. There should be, and that should be compared also with the earlier data. Suppose that this the rise of population, like population of the Yadavas. No, if you see the trend from 91 to 1960, 60 years, there is very minor rise in the population in these communities. And all of a sudden this 3.5, why and how? So we need to analyze the data, any data, in a continual term, in a long-term term. And also, Vasudha, what I miss in this entire exercise is the methodology issue, because government needs to explain the methodology in a great detail, and there should be a handbook published by the those who have surveyed it as methodology. How did they did it? So these questions of whether this data is true or false or inflated will not come. So three things which I am pursuing here. One is distribution of resources horizontally, how it should be possible. Government needs to plan the strategy and strengthen the capacity to the most marginal to aspire for going higher, to become mobile. That is needed. And EBC and also Dalit, Mahadalit exercise of the Nitish Kumar had done well. I think he needs to do a special protection programs and policies for the EBC, which is the largest community, but very poor in various sense. So EBC may be targeted in terms of making policies for development and for empowering this community. So Vasudha, this is my observation.
Absolutely. So that's a very interesting point, because the survey data also says on an average about 30% of the EBC families, EBC is the same category that Nitish Kumar comes from, it's 29.8% among Telis, rising to 30% among Kanus and other categories. So Aditi ma'am, tell us, do you see this demand for caste census also rising and setting the contours of 2024 Lok Sabha campaign? Because when you see data, it's glaring, it's a powerful weapon, right? So do you see the demand rising in the coming days?
Data on its own doesn't tell us everything. And it needs to be analyzed and it needs to be interpreted, and data has to match the reality, the living reality of people whose data is being collected. So that's one part of it. But as far as caste census is concerned, the Congress has already said that it wants a caste census, and it has actually committed to carrying out a caste census in all the states where it is in power. So I think going forward, issues of caste, issues of socio-economic deprivation, and issues of basically your place in society and how much society owes you. All these questions will become important issues. BJP may have a hard time sort of matching this, because the BJP is not exactly in denial of caste, but does not really endorse caste sees caste as a divisive issue.
Right.
So it will be interesting to see how the BJP handles this.
Yes. Professor Badri Narayan, that's an interesting point, and taking off from what Aditi ma'am said, the Prime Minister has also been talking about Garibi. This is something that you mentioned. The Home Minister Amit Shah in MP clearly said that the BJP is not opposed to caste census, and at an appropriate time the party will sort of consult stakeholders. How do you see this position of the BJP, and do you see this as a challenge for the party in the coming months?
I think, Vasudha, it's a very interesting position which Amit Shah ji has suggested yesterday. That shows that first of all they will critique this survey and try to expose its problems and the kind of whatever they have the objections, and then they will come and say, look, we are going to do the survey, and this survey is telling this. So they will come with the other state of data. And that is the politics of data happens in every society. Those who contest for it. Secondly, what I observed that this statement of Amit Shah is going to begin a new politics in mobilization of OBC, in the history of mobilization of OBC politics, and that is going to highlight the deprivation of the EBC, which Data is also saying, and he will propose that look, EBC is ignored in politically, socially, economically, and BJP has always tried to support them, and you know the politics of BJP is always everywhere against dominant the OBC, mobilizing a small numbers of OBC, MBC caste, EBC caste under the BJP fold. So what was the pattern of their politics since last many years? Now they are going to strengthen that, and now they have an argument also, and they are going to assert with that argument in coming politics of mobilization of OBC community in electoral politics.
Right. Thank you very much, Aditi ma'am and Professor Badri Narayan for joining us.